So this is part 2 of this mandala drawing video. I will just be filling in some more details, getting it a little more complete. So I'm going to add another layer onto these hearts. So I always think of adding another layer of the mandalas a lot like improvising a dance. And that means if you are doing a movement that you like, you can just continue that and either make it bigger, make it smaller, or do some variation on that movement. And likewise here. Make the shape bigger or smaller, or do some sort of variation. But it is a lot like improvising a dance in that if you keep doing that same thing that you were just doing, even if it's, and if you change it up and do some variation of it, eventually your brain will get its fill of that and then suggest something else. So because I'm making a bigger shape on the outside of this shape, I would call this filling it out or outlining. So then I'm going to go to this outer circle and add these little pointy petals or temple-like shapes. And people do these different ways. They might do it like I just did and scoop up and then down, or you start at the point and then scoop down, or you go to from the bottom to the top and then the other side, bottom to the top. And really it's up to you, whatever you find to be the most comfortable or effective for what you're doing. Some people have called these temples or squashed tents. And you are, of course, free to call them whatever you want, whatever sticks in your mind. You don't have to call them anything at all if you don't want to. You are, of course, as free to get detailed as you like, or keep it as open as you like. If you were doing a drawing or a coloring sheet, it's really personal preference as to whether you want to keep it open or if you want to add a lot of detail. Some people seem to like coloring in lots of tiny little details, and if you were like me, then the coloring part is not necessarily the most fun part. So you prefer bigger, more open areas. And also, I found for my purposes, when I'm doing, later on, we're going to be getting into more complex backgrounds. And when you do that, it just makes more sense to have more open space for these designs, where your background kind of comes through and you're providing a framework to see it through. If your mandala is super intricate and complicated, then something, either your background or your designs, often get lost. But you may find a point where that works. So it is, if you like a complex background and a complex mandala, go ahead and do it. And here it's getting a little bit tricky because you can see that you're either going to have one big giant one or two sort of squashed ones. So I opted for two sort of squashed ones. In the long run, you're really not going to notice that very much, especially if you go back and repeat that design, because then you can say, okay, well, this one is really big, so what I'm going to do is go in and make some on the inside, and that will balance it out. So you'll hear my crystal bracelets dragging against my desk there, because I always, every day, day and night, wear my crystal bracelets. I find it to be a daily self-care practice to have healing crystals on my body at any given point. So we're coming back to that point where we've got these two little bits that are a little bit squashed. And I'm going to continue to fill in here because these parts are a little bigger. But then here where we have these two kind of squashed parts, we can kind of fill in over the top. And it still doesn't make it exactly symmetrical, but it kind of makes everything balance out a little bit more. So again, I'm going to go back in and repeat something I did before. So then I could come from the inside here again and repeat this scallop that I did before. I'm speeding this up a little bit here just because it may get a little boring for you to watch. It's meditative to do it yourself, and you may find it meditative to watch. I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. So especially initially when you are first trying out these marks and shapes, the slower you go, the neater it will be. And like I said with the sketches or taking notes, you don't need to be slow or precise or perfect in any sort of way. And you never have to worry about being completely perfect. This is not what this class is about. There are a lot of ways that people will teach you how to make really, really intricate intricate grids for getting very tiny, small, precise details. But this isn't what this class is about. We're doing more broad concepts. So here again, I'm just repeating what I did here. Tiny little circles. So if you do decide to do slower, more deliberate shapes, just stay present with it. Make sure you're still breathing. Make sure that you are staying with every single stroke and movement, and doing this all without criticism, with a whole bunch of compassion for your learning process. Because ultimately, this is about you feeling good. You're learning different ways to feel good, and the more you feel good, the better your body heals. The more present you are, the more you appreciate your process and the fact that you are putting effort into this. And I don't mean that in a, if you're working hard, then you're a good person, then you're a better person, or I think there's a way too of a strong emphasis on doing and trying to be everything on our checklist, trying to check off all of the boxes that make you acceptable, when really, however you are, staying exactly where you are, acknowledging that point, and allowing yourself to be there and hold that space so that you're able to let go of anything that doesn't work. If you're able to stay present where you are and say, yes, this is where I am, and I accept me and my position and my process, and the longer you hold and accept where you are, then the easier it is to move on. It really takes a lot less time when you are accepting of where you are to move on. It's just like when you are stretching a muscle. For example, if you were doing yoga, this is something that I learned as an occupational therapist. If you hold a muscle at the point where it is, if you just hold it there without trying to push beyond, if you stay there, then it will release itself. And that's the same with you and your process, with art, with life, with anything. So we're going to stop here, and I will see you in the next video.